Okay, hello dear all, it's me. I just want to give you some hints in order to design your first self-access learning material. And I want to take advantage of, let's say, the experience we have had so far and some issues that you have commented in our discussion forums. Initially for your design, more than the tool, more than using some of the tools that I have recommended in the module, is actually identifying the teaching purpose. So if actually you don't have a teaching purpose, so that won't be a good resource. That's the first issue to have in mind. So you have to think about the purpose, the objective, the teaching and the learning objective of your SAM. Remember that we can be teaching either culture, language. In this moment I have requested to do a reading or vocabulary self-access learning material. Second idea that you should consider, we are talking about self-access learning materials. And here we have two key words, self-access, that students can actually have access to the resource by themselves, and learning. Learning means that students will learn through the SAM. When we talk about self-access and learning, it means that we have, and we go to the third one, to scaffold the learning process. And a scaffold means that we actually guide our students stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and we can take students like step by step in order to do, let's say, the work. I'm going to take one of the checklists that probably calls my attention, and it's just to take advantage of it. Fourth one, when you design your self-access, we need, as this group posted, like let's say, labeling, like giving a name to your self-access learning material. Imagine that you have a huge collection of self-access. So you will need like a number, you will need even a topic, and it's important, the purpose of the material. It would be interesting that it has, in this moment it says the evaluator's name, but it should have your name, the ones who were the designers. The date, because let's say that in the near future, if those resources are posted online, so the idea is that I know if it is an updated resource or not. A name for the self-access learning materials, an intended population, and here it's an important issue. You are designing materials thinking about your school, but more than that, we are also thinking about students of the same level in different contexts. We have to talk about the language level proficiency of that intended population, by thinking that we are talking about children, or we are talking about A1 learners, something like that. And of course, the skills that will be practiced or will reinforce in your set. So let's say that this is my fourth recommendation. The fifth one, as we can see here, instructions. So you have to be very, very careful with the instructions. If students do not understand the instruction, so they won't learn what you're saying. So instructions should be clear, should be precise, as probably one of the examples that we have here is just taken into that, like using these. These little emoticons that they actually use here are actually, I don't mean, well, what I mean here as a fifth one, remember the layout and what they call here the design. The design has to be, let's say, according to the age of your students. So if you want to design a self-access for adults, of course you cannot use like certain drawings or pictures because they are not probably pertinent for the age. But if you are working with children, probably certain icons can work. The design is an important issue, the layout. And in the layout we have like the font, like the layout to understand, colors, size and types, capital letters, etc. And all of these visual supporters. So as a SAM, it can actually work. The second one that they mentioned here is content and activities. And it's going to be quite similar to what you have done in your lesson plans. In your lesson plans, you start with a presentation, with a practice, and with a production. So So students should have a moment in which when they are introduced to the methodic, a moment in which when they will practice that one, and a moment for evaluating. So it has to be something similar that you do in your SEM. So probably in some of your checklists you have issues regarding these ideas. The other one that can be interested included is if students can actually keep records of whatever they are going to do. In many of your checklists, you actually mention that students should have like, let's say, like the power to decide that they can go from activity 1, 2, and 3. However, you can actually decide which will be the stages that they can actually use, and you have to tell them. A recommendation in the activities is that you also include like a suggested time. So you have to balance. So in that way, you will actually know how long will the students do in your SEM, and the students will actually know that probably they have to do it in different moments to complete it. These people are talking here about instructions and language. Careful with that. Instructions have to be very clear, and English has to be perfect and adequate or pertinent or proper for the level. They are talking about an important aspect, evaluation and feedback, which I consider is mandatory because it's a self-access learning materials, to which one students can receive feedback on the work they are doing. So if you ask them to do a certain exercise, so give them feedback, either because there is an answer key or there are some comments that you are telling them how to evaluate their performance. And at the end, an evaluation. So based on the topic, you can post certain activities to be evaluated. A typical mistake that I have found in the designs of our students, former student SEMs, is that they actually start like including, let's say, they start with reading and they end up with speaking. So that's not the best way to do it. So if the students are reading, so focus them on reading. The other thing that I want that you keep in mind is the rubric that we're going to use to assess this kind of production. Number one, clear and meaningful learning objectives. So if objectives are not clear, so we have problems. That's why there is a recommendation for you to check how to write a good objective. From time to time, teachers have, or we as teachers have problems with the objectives. Be careful with the verbs. So we have to create, if you remember, SMART goals. Goals that are actually achievable, goals that students can actually say at the end of the process, yes, I make it, I could do it, etc. Clear and accessible instructions. A worthwhile activity that is motivating, interesting, and more than that is worth learning. Remember, we are not designing this kind of material just because of the good sake of designing that. We are doing because we want our students to learn. Meaningful language input and practice. This is what I call your presentation, practice, and production. So you have to teach students something, and after that, students can actually practice it, depending on the language level, the skill, etc. Logical choice of procedures. So remember that there are certain activities that are better for the introductory stage or for the practice stage or for the last production stage. So try to make those activities like a logic procedure, because the students think about this. Self-access learning materials is because the students will be accessing these resources by themselves. It includes evaluation, feedback, and progression, as I have just told you. Relevant and encouraging sources that are cited. Maybe this is important, APA style, if you are going to take pictures, if you are going to take readings, be careful, because if you don't have permissions, it's better that you send people to the external reading. Or that you cite where do you take the picture from, or that you use your own pictures or your own adapted readings. Attractiveness, user-friendliness. It's very important that students actually know, remember to add some buttons like next, what's next, so they will actually know what to do. And finally, good language much, because in some of these exams we actually see that the students are having problems. So my dear, before these designs, you do not forget to use this rubric, and do not forget to use your checklist to self-evaluate your performance. Wishing you the best. Thank you.